Hello everyone. So this is going to be my August TBR, and I think we're gonna do it. I think we're gonna finish this series this month, which is very exciting for me because I've been going pretty steady with the series, but I've got the last three in the Throne of Glass series that I'm going to tackle this month. So yeah, I was gonna talk through some things. So first off, I will go ahead and give a general synopsis of at least the first one because it is a very lengthy series. Clearly, it's like 8 books long, and lots of stuff happens outside of the first one. So if you're not familiar with Throne of Glass, the series is by Sarah J. Maas. So this is a young adult, well, it starts out as young adult fantasy with some fantasy romance aspects, and then as it goes along, it gets more adult. So Sarah J. Maas came out with this book when she was basically a teenager, and continued the series as she grew up. So this was her debut series. But anyways, so as for the synopsis of the first one, we follow our main character, Selena, who is notorious for being an assassin in the kingdom of Adderlane. So she one day gets caught amidst her assassinating, yeah, the usual. And she gets sentenced to working in, well, not really working, she's forced to be a slave laborer in the salt mines of Endovir, which is one of the 2 slave camps, very big slave camps in this world. So that's where she serves out her sentence. But when she's about a year in, she gets pulled out of the camp by Dorian Havillard, which is the crown prince, and the captain of the guard, Kale Westfall, and they take her back to Adderlane, the kingdom. And there they tell her that she is their, or at least Dorian's candidate for the competition that the king is hosting. So the king gathered a bunch of candidates, or rather asked his most trusted to gather some candidates for his competition, where they were all fight to the death. Well, not really. Some of it's very like risky. Some of them do die in it, and etc. It's very cutthroat. But they are competing to becoming his champion, and there they will serve as basically doing his dirty work in the kingdom. And so Selena, seeing this as her only way out of getting away from Endovir, she accepts it because otherwise she would just get thrown back in. And so there she is training because she has kind of lost a lot of weight and things like that while she was in Endovir for a year. And some stuff starts happening during the course of this. There's a mystery that starts unfolding. Some of her competitors start getting brutally murdered during the length of the competition. And so while she is in this, she's also trying to solve the murders as well. And we get thrown into this world that's very grim, which I like. Really like darker fantasy worlds. The king is not a very nice person. He has like outlawed magic in this world. And yeah, so after this book, we still get some of the same like vibes in the second one, Crown of Midnight, and then the third one, Heir of Fire, is when we kind of get thrown way into the deep end of like more lore on this universe, on this world. We get definitely some heartbreak along the way. We meet tons of new characters in the third one. And then in the fourth one, we get it's basically the start of the end of the series. So I finished Queen of Shadows last month. And so without saying too much, yeah, we just kind of get put in the situation of where Celaena's starting to develop her plans for an endgame. So there is an extra novel called Assassin's Blade in the series, which it's a collection of novellas that talk more about Celaena and who she was before she was caught, and it's also the events leading up to when she's caught by the king. So I actually read that. I'll mention it in my book wrap up for last month, but I read Assassin's Blade after Heir of Fire. Some people say to read it after Crown of Midnight. Some people say to read it before you even start the series. Personally, I would recommend it in the order that I read it. So before Queen of Shadows and after Heir of Fire. Just because I feel like the Crown of Midnight leaves off at kind of like a cliffhanger, and so reading Heir of Fire after that kind of helped with that. And then after Heir of Fire, we kind of get set into like what's going to happen, but I feel like getting a break between Heir of Fire and what happens in Queen of Shadows is perfect to read it. And then also, the other reason I see why people recommend reading Assassin's Blade before Queen of Shadows is because we get a lot of like stuff that happened in the novellas. We get reminded of it in like literally every novella in Assassin's Blade. We get reminded of it in Queen of Shadows. So I think it's really helpful to have that stuff fresh in your mind for when you go into Queen of Storms. What am I doing? Queen of Shadows. Jesus. I'm like screwing up all of the titles in my head. It's fine. So yes. If that made any sense at all. Cool. Anyways. So to finish out the series, I will be reading Empire of Storms next. And then Tower of Dawn. And then the finale in Kingdom of Ash. So Kingdom of Ash is like 980 pages. So we'll see how all of this goes, because these are all thickums, but anyways. So the one thing I did want to mention, some people have recommended tandem reading Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn, because from what I understand, they're from different perspectives, but it's stuff that's happening at the same time, I'm assuming. I don't know, because I'm not there yet. I don't want to spoil myself by reading synopses. But for my first read-through of this series, since this is my first read-through of all of the books in the series, I am going to read them separately, and I'll be reading them one after the other when I finish, so I'll have it fresh in my mind. But yeah, some people recommended, like, if you hate a certain character, or if you disliked Queen of Shadows and things like that, to tandem read these, because it'll go better for you. But I feel like I want to get like the full experience by reading them one at a time, and also the way I have to read, because I read a lot of my books at work. I'm not going to bring both of these to work to read. That's unrealistic to me. So yeah. I just feel like reading two books at the same time is too much for me, unless one of them is like contemporary romance and then one of them is fantasy. But anyways, so yeah, my personal read through, since it's the first time I'm going through this series, I'm going to read them separately. And then I think people recommend doing it that way anyways, and then when if you're rereading them, to tandem read, because you can get some more out of it if you've already read the series. But yeah, I'm just not going to do it that way, because it's a lot. Both of these are like 700 pages. Yeah, nearly 700 pages. But anyways, so that's my goals for this month. So yeah, I figured this would be a shorter video anyway because I can't really say much on what's going on currently without giving spoilers since a lot's happened. So yeah, and I'm not going to be focusing on any other books this month because I don't have time. Yeah, so. But for sure, next week I will have my wrap up for the month of July. So I'll cover, because I finished Heir of Fire, I read Assassin's Blade, and Queen of Shadows, and then I also read It Ends With Us and It Starts With Us. I covered those in a 24-hour readathon, but I did not finish It Starts With Us in that 24-hour readathon I posted. And I'll give my condensed final thoughts in my wrap-up, as well as my thoughts on the Throne of Glass series so far. So, if you're interested in that, I will have that posted next week. But I wanted to get this one up first so that you knew where I was at the start of the month. So, yeah, so this month, I'm so excited to finish the series. Like, I've been loving it so far. I can see why it's a very beloved series, and I'm so ready to finish the series. Like, I'm geared to go, and I know it's gonna break my heart. It's gonna be sad, but I'm here for it, because I love that. So, yeah, I will see you guys next week for my wrap-up, and if there's anything you would like to see from me in terms of book content or, like, videos and things, let me know. But yeah, I will see you guys next week. Bye.